Arvin. Arvin, you are on with Benjamin and John. John is getting a beer right now, but what can I do for you, Arvin?
Good evening, Benjamin
Hey,
and John.
hello. How are you doing?
Hi. So it's my first time here.
Thanks for coming.
So what should I do? Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you too.
hmm
So
just it says here that you
how
called
should we start?
to. Oh, John's back. So, John, we have Arvin on the line.
Hi,
Arvin,
Arvin.
Arvin.
Good
Uh,
evening. Yep.
and it says here that he wants to talk about God's existence, and he's a Catholic from Antipolo. So, go ahead and
Yeah.
make your
Hi, Arvin.
case. What is it that you want to ask us or explain to us?
Yeah.
Okay. So regarding with the God's existence, I agree with you and with the discussion earlier that the burden of proof lies on the T side. So okay with that. But what I think atheists can do is to try to engage or uh, head face on the strongest proofs for the existence of God. Are you aware of
All right,
Dr.
hang on.
Edward Tracer?
What makes you think we haven't done that?
Yeah.
No,
I
I
was gonna
think you've
ask. I was
done
gonna ask
that,
that too.
but I think you've done that. But I've also seen some uh, books and blog posts where atheists commit straw man. The most typical of
Mm-hmm.
them is if the universe has a cause, if everything has a cause, then what caused God? I think that's a straw man because
How is that a
uh,
straw man?
it
Because
can.
essentially, hang on. Essentially, what you're getting at is that's a straw man because I'm going to let you finish that thought. But just give me a second because I want to demonstrate why I don't think it's a straw man, and you tell me if you agree. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm willing to
So
listen.
the reason why I think it's not a straw man is because if God didn't have a cause, then it's equally okay to say the universe didn't have a cause. To say otherwise is a special pleading fallacy. So I don't think it's a straw man to ask that question as a sort of hyperbole to the God doesn't have a cause. Because if God doesn't have a cause, then that's just an assertion. Neither does the universe need a cause. Why can't the universe just go on forever? Why do we need a God to fill in that hole of infinite regress? Anyway, hopefully that answered that simple question. That it's not a straw man, but
Uh,
maybe you disagree.
I understand that. I also encountered that kind of objection, which accuses of special pleading. But
Okay.
you see, I think you don't know yet why it's a strawman for Ts. I'm
Uh,
expecting you'll say something about it, but you've
well, go ahead. I'm
given
happy to have
some
you
other
explain why it's a
reason.
straw man.
Mm-hmm.
Ay, okay. So it's a strawman because if we really try to look at the arguments of the Ts like Plato, Aristotle, Plotinus, Aquinas, Anselm, Leibniz, and some other serious theists there, you won't find any premise that says everything has a cause. Actually, they deny that everything has a cause because, of course, God doesn't have a cause. But how do we know
Eh,
that God doesn't have a cause? I'll agree. If there's no reason, it will just be a special pleading. Why not the universe? But
Okay.
if you will examine, okay,
I have to
are you
stop you
going to say
just
something?
for a second because I think I understand where you're coming from now. So I think you're kind of on the right track. I don't know that it's a straw man per se, but I think you're on the right track. So there's two versions of the argument. There's a more modern one that Bill Craig uses all the time, and then there's the one from Aristotle's time, which was everything that exists has a cause. Which, of course, if that's true,
Oh
then yes,
no,
everything that exists has a
Aristotle.
cause. Or well, maybe it wasn't
I'm
Aristotle,
sorry to
but
cut you.
there's no. Well, hang on. The one that corrects that is everything that exists has a cause. Oh, but that means that God exists, so he must have had a cause. Well, can't have that. So everything that began to exist has a cause. That's Bill Craig's version. So God didn't begin to exist, so he didn't have a cause, which is why you get the special pleading. But I don't see that as a straw man still, but go ahead.
Okay, so even I'm not supporting the Kalam cosmological argument because
Okay.
we're not sure whether the world has a beginning. Actually, Aristotle said the world
Right.
is eternal. It's always there. So it's neither the case that Aristotle said that everything has a cause. No, we can quote
I
anything. from
I don't
his
remember if it was
voluminous
Aristotle's argument or
writings.
not. It may or may not have been. I
Yeah,
think it was.
it's a straw man
How is it a straw man? A
Bertrand
straw man.
Russell
Hang on. Do you know
and
what a straw
David
man
Hume.
is, Arvin?
Yes, straw man is to attack a distortion. It's attacking not the position of the opponent, but something made up.
Okay, I
And
don't
I
think it's
know
made
that
up
it's
because
made
I
up
have heard theists say it. I have heard theists say that everything has a cause, or everything begins to exist have a cause.
well,
How is it a straw
yeah,
man?
that's why that's why I qualify the serious theists, the ones who are really philosophers, right?
Serious theists.
Like Leibniz, yeah. Even Craig will not say that. Now,
Yes, he will. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. That's his first premise.
yeah, but that's also problematic because we don't see whether the
But
Big Bang is
but
really the
that's his
start.
first premise. That's literally his first premise.
But
Whenever he brings up this argument,
yeah,
everything that begins to exist has a
that's
cause.
why I agree that's his Kalam cosmological
I'm talking way too
argument.
much. I'm gonna
Although
let
what I'm
John jump
saying,
in.
No. Go ahead,
okay,
man. Go ahead. I'm learning. I'm enjoying this. I'm
Go
actually
ahead.
learning.
All right, go ahead, Arvin. I'm
okay,
sorry to
so
interrupt.
it's okay. So I actually I'm more I learned much from Dr. Edward Fraser. Do you know the guy?
The
He's a
name is familiar, but
philosopher
I'm
in
not remembering
California.
exactly.
Oh, so yeah, that's one thing I learned from him that uh, that's the most popular straw man.
I don't see how. Okay, look,
Nothing.
I stop. I'm not going to sit here and let you just keep calling it a straw man when I keep pointing out that theists everywhere,
Mm.
whether or not they're serious or not, say everything that begins to exist has a cause. The question then is, why doesn't
It's
God
not
have
a
a
straw
cause?
man.
Hang on a second. Then
Okay.
the question is, why doesn't God have a cause? That's not a straw man question because the question is, or the premise is, everything that begins to exist has a cause. That is a direct question. And now, if I said everything begins to exist has a cause, and you say God didn't begin to exist, so God doesn't need a cause, then that's fine. We can move on. But there's still no straw man in asking the question.
I agree that to say or to quote from William Lane Craig that everything that has a beginning has a cause is not a straw man. What I'm saying that there's a straw man is when someone quotes from a supposed theist that everything has a cause. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
Let
I think I
John
can.
comment. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. I think
because
I.
I can
I
feel your agitation
no.
against the accusation of straw man. So let me
Okay.
make my case instead. All right.
Well, hang on. Let John comment really quick because I've been talking over this whole time, so I want John to comment before we
It's all
move on.
right. So here we go. This is what I've observed from the conversation. You guys have been going around with the whole straw man thing and where to discuss it, but I think it falls down on the root of what atheism is. And atheism, okay, theists will say they know. Let's say the mover of all movers, the beginning. The atheist can always say humbly, like I don't know. Science is still trying to find out. Humanity is still trying to discover these things. It's okay to say I don't know, and I think that's the nice position of being an atheist is that you can admit if you don't know until further information is given to you. Now, if you say there's the source of everything, the beginning of everything, whether it's an entity, whether it's a superpower, if you make that claim or say it is, then that's the claim, diba? Atheists do not make any claims. That when I'm listening to your conversation, like Inga, the unknown mover, the beginning of all, I have never made that claim. I'm never gonna say no, God didn't do it. I said it's like we don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
and
agree. Let's find out.
my response to the question, not being a straw man. See, the thing is, a theist is going to say, "Oh, well, God didn't have a cause," and that's fine for them to say it, but it is just a bald assertion. How do they know God didn't have a cause? How do they justify that? It's just an assertion.
So it's okay if I'll share my thoughts how I think God doesn't have a cause,
Go for it.
which doesn't appeal to a
I was hoping
bold
we'd get to that.
assertion. Okay, so yeah, I'm so sorry
You're all
That's
right.
went
okay.
to
Don't
a
worry.
wrong track. I should have I went to anyway. Let's go.
Mm.
So, do you agree that this kind of proof will work for God's existence? Because
No.
I am aware that that atheists are looking for direct observable evidence. But as you can see, there's nothing like that from the theists because they can, oh, look, here's God. They
Hmm.
can't do that from reason alone.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know if
but there's a reason.
I don't know if John would agree with this, but my statement
Uh,
is going to be a logical argument has two properties. It has to be true premises lead to true conclusions if the premises are sound. So that means
mhm.
that you need to demonstrate that the logical structure is both valid and sound. That means you can't have an invalid structure and sound premises that doesn't get you to a true conclusion. If you have a valid structure
Oh,
and unsound premises, then you don't have a true conclusion either. Well, you might have, but you don't know. And so
that's very
the
good.
the yeah, so the argument would be, your question was, will this argument work? And I don't think any argument on its own would work until you demonstrate the truth of a premise. So
Oh, that's
all
good. That's
all
good.
men from
Because,
Mm,
Italy are
yeah,
green. Bill is from Italy, so
mhm,
therefore Bill is
mhm.
green. That is a logically
Yeah.
valid structure, but in
yeah, that's
fact, all people
valid.
from
The
Italy are not
conclusion
green.
necessarily follows. Yes,
Mm.
the one of the premises is false. Yeah, I agree. I know that
Okay,
for an argument to be
I
correct,
just
first
wanted
it
to
must be
clarify
valid.
that
The
for you and
conclusion.
for the audience. So go ahead with your proof.
Well, you've answered my question
Okay,
very well because
all right.
I'm just testing whether you will accept some argument or you just want to use your senses that point me,
Uh,
ano,
I
point me
will
to God. Let
clarify
me
that
see Him.
I will clarify that I'm happy to hear an argument because I think that educates others on arguments maybe they haven't heard yet. So, I
Mm.
mean, I'm
Ah,
probably
okay.
aware of
So
every contemporary argument for the existence of God because I've studied all of them,
yeah,
but most people probably aren't. So
okay.
I'm happy to go over it.
Yeah, because some atheists, especially Filipino atheists, they don't want argument. They just want show me God, something like that, and it's the
Yeah,
end of conversation.
and I
Yeah,
reject
you
that
don't
too.
have the chance to show the
Mhm.
argument. Very good. You're a very good one. You're a very good atheist.
You're a very good
Okay.
one, Ben. You're a very good
That's
atheist.
that's what they pay me for. Oh wait, they don't pay me.
Okay, so let me now try to share what I think the best argument for God's existence.
Go
Well,
nuts.
it's again from Aristotle. It's argument from motion or motion. The term is in general is change. No, so the starting point can be something very evident like water, wood. So with those things, we can see that they change. For example, a water is lukewarm. It can become hot, or a wood is just a wood. Then when you set it on fire, it will be a burning wood. So in Aristotle's analysis of change, change is the actualization of potentiality. So a wood has the potential to be a burning wood. So if it is a potentially burning wood, it's not yet actually burning wood. But when you get an actual fire, which is actually hot, and you put it on the wood, the potential of the wood to be burning will be actualized. So I think that's the starting point of Aristotle. There are evident things like water, wood, and those are changing things. And change is not contra to Parmenides. It's not going from nothing to something. That's why Parmenides argued that change is illusory. There's no change. But of course, that's self-defeating because while you are doing some argument, you are already in change. You are going from premise to conclusion, something like that. So what we can say with those first premises are there are changing things, and change is actualization of potential, and change is real. And another thing we can add, this is very important. It's now about the cause. uh, Nothing potential can be actual by itself. Okay, so like let's go back with the
Can can I
wood.
stop you for just a
I
second?
Okay, sure.
I don't want to bore the audience with these logical proofs that are probably making their eyes glaze over. So I just want to know, can we get to the point a little faster? That's all.
Yeah.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I will make it faster, but see, okay, I will finish it on.
Try to
So
give me the
uh,
Cliff Notes version, the short one.
Yeah.
And then we can, if you need to expand on it later, we can, but just shorter version will be better.
okay. So the next premise is that nothing can be no potential can be actual without having another actual thing. To prove that very fast, I have a potential to learn French language. I cannot be both potentially learn in French language or actually learn in French language, it must be only one. But I can only learn from someone who is actually learned of French language. So that's how you prove the principle of causality. So everything that has a potential can be influenced by a cause to actualize the effect. So we can now go to the structure of every material things. Do you know that every
Yep.
material things is also in potentiality? How do I say so? Because
what is the punchline? Because I'm like I feel like
Yeah,
I'm waiting for this to get to a
I,
point.
I agree. I agree with Arvin that there's
Right.
nothing more constant in the universe than change. That's
Sure.
that's undeniable. Change is definite.
That's
the only
matter
thing
in
that's
motion.
constant.
That's time and
Yeah.
space. Yep.
So I'm still trying to figure out the point.
Yeah, where are we getting
okay,
to?
so let
What's
me
the
continue.
conclusion of the argument? Maybe we could start there and work our way backwards.
Well, God exists.
Oh,
God,
well,
no monotheistic God exists.
maybe back up a little further then.
Mhm.
Well, I'm already halfway, so
Okay, go ahead.
let's continue so that will be done. Okay, so so every material things are composed of prime matter and substantial form. For example, a dog, it has a body, but its body by itself is in potential because it can be a body of a tree, a body some
Get
kind
to
of
the point.
minerals
You
in
don't have
the
to
ground.
give hundreds of examples. Just get to the point.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, just to prove it.
We get it.
So
Potentiality, actualization.
okay,
Continue.
but so there's a prime matter in material things, but what make them actually a dog is there's a substantial form of dogness, no? So it's what's
What
true with the dog is
hang
true with
on.
every. Mhm.
What makes it actually a dog are the physical facts about the universe. A dog is a dog and is not a dog. We label that particular set of collection of atoms a dog.
Okay,
This is logic.
yes, dogs have atom, but you can say that atoms are all that there is because we
Mm,
cannot. If
no.
atoms are all that there is, then how
Well,
can we
it's
know
not all that there is.
where this atom belongs? So we point to the dog. So the whole dog also exists, not only its atom. So that's the
Um,
substantial form, the
What,
pattern.
John?
but
What?
So
they share atoms with other stuff, other things that are whether
yeah,
alive or not physically alive and all that. They share characteristics. They share, as you said, atoms. I would even say, genetics and shit like that. But it, that's like, for me, it's general knowledge. We're arguing over something that's. I'm still trying to see the point. I'm really trying to find the
okay,
point. It's with the
so
dog. There's
Hang
so
on,
I'll
hang
many.
on.
continue. I'll continue.
No,
So okay,
before you continue, I want to clarify. Atoms
okay.
are not the only thing. I mean, you could argue that atoms are the only existent thing that we know of, besides perhaps dark matter. But ignoring
Mhm.
that for the moment, um, atoms also have certain properties. So there are energies, forces that we call them. We have the four fundamental forces: weak nuclear, strong nuclear, gravity, and one other one that's escaping my memory, which nobody talks about anyway. Um, and so
Gravitational.
gravitation, I mentioned that one, I think, but there's another one. I'm
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
physicist, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. The point is, atoms, while they are quote unquote the only thing, are not the only potentially acting thing. There are other things like the four fundamental forces of the universe that cause atoms to interact in a certain way. So the reason a dog is because the specific properties of the universe cause those set of atoms to stay together until that particular organism no longer is able to continue staying together because of perhaps a lack of
Mhm.
energy. It dies, that kind of thing. Something else has to act upon
Yeah.
that thing.
Even
Yeah.
when it's a rotting corpse, it still shares a bit of the atoms of. It's not a
Yeah.
dog anymore. It's a corpse.
Yes. Or a corpse of a
Yeah.
dog.
So agree with that. I agree with that. So even atom itself or particles, which not a dog, is composed of prime matter and substantial form
Magnetic,
because
right?
we can see many particles, but we can tell that they're the same particles because they have the same form, pattern, or substantial form. But they are different particles because they are in different points of space. That's their prime matter. So although prime matter by itself is a potentiality, no, it must be merged with substantial form in order to exist.
How do you define prime
Substantial
matter?
form on the prime matter is the substratum of any material object.
What does
It's
that
the
mean?
one that
Mhm.
it's the
Are you
one
do
that
you
gives.
Do you mean?
Mhm.
I want to just clarify. Maybe I understand it already, and I just don't want to make you go on a tangent. So, do you mean that, for example, my prime matter would be like hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen,
Yeah, all
iron?
of those.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I get it. So if we're a carbon-based planet, carbon-based creatures, animals, people, so if we find or discover, for example, living organisms in another universe that are made more of, they're not carbon-based, they're nitrogen-based or something like that, it kind of defeats the argument of the structure because their structure is completely different from ours. Is that not true?
I don't know if I understand the argument well enough at this point to comment on whether or not it's true.
Hmm.
Maybe Arvin can. I mean, I understand what he's getting at, but I don't understand why he's
Yeah,
getting there. So
it's the
continue,
structure and
I guess.
the parts of the structure that are similar or unique to this particular place or this world. Yeah, we're a carbon-based species, carbon-based life
Right.
forms in this planet. It doesn't have necessarily have to be carbon-based anywhere else. So that's generalizing again that everything
I
has a
guess
structure that's organized.
how do we get to the God? Because I feel like we're just sort of dancing around all kinds of other stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure where the God plays into this. So let's get to that, and then we'll try to wrap this up. We have other callers we can get to. Arvin, did we lose you?
Oh, we
I think
lost.
we lost Arvin. Yep, we lost Arvin. Oh, hold on,
You
he's
didn't
pulling
like
back
that
in.
I brought up aliens. Oh, there he
I
is.
think I think we
Yeah,
lost
hello,
Arvin.
hello.
There we go.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm talking and talking, but I realized no one is responding. So
yeah, we didn't hear you. I guess your mic cut out. So what? How do we get to the God?
okay, to continue, uh,
Please.
prime matter is very important because change, especially substantial form,
Okay.
uh, when someone dies, for example, a man or an animal, it gives away its old form. It's not animal anymore or man. It becomes minerals. So
You are playing with
the remains are the same.
no. You are playing with labels. This is playing
Well,
with labels.
okay, I will challenge you then.
The
Can you explain substantial change without appealing to prime matter and substantial form? Is
because the
change
prime
then a
matter didn't
disappearance?
change. The structure changed and our label for that structure changed.
Mhm.
But every material things are both prime matter and the structure or the substantial form.
No, the only objection I had
Because
so far, I was going to let you continue, but the only objection I had to what you said was, it's no longer a dog, and the only reason it's no longer a dog is because we don't label it a dog anymore. It's not because it suddenly magically turned into something else. It just stopped being what we call it.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do
but
with
why do we
actuality.
stop calling it as a dog? But
Because that's
why
what
do
we
we
label
stop
it.
calling
Because
it
if
a
when
dog?
it's no
Yeah,
longer
that's
alive, it's not valuable to call it a living dog anymore. We call it a dead dog.
Can we say that the structure of its body changes? That's why it's not a dog
Yes.
anymore.
Well,
So,
the
well,
energy
that's
in the
just
dog
it.
changes.
It'll be deconstructed from what it was. It's gonna change into something else. It's gonna
Yeah.
die. It's gonna become a corpse, and then it's gonna rot, and then it's gonna become worm food, and then it's gonna be in the soil. It's gonna become fertilizer, and then that fertilizer through erosion will turn into something else and either become a tree, become a plant, become anything. You're just
And
changing the name of it.
exactly. And to
yeah, I agree
clarify,
with that. But
well, I want to clarify the
mhm.
way that that happens is not through some mystical force causing it to happen. It happens through a change in energy states. So,
Mhm.
what happens when a dog dies is that its energy is no longer being produced by the brain. So, the brain shuts down, and then the organs start to shut down. And the only reason the organs can stay alive is because the brain was keeping it alive because it thought it was able to eat. And when it can't eat, it can't take in more energy. When it can't take in more energy, it stops existing and starts to decompose. The energy starts to break down. The connections between the cells start to break down. The cells start to die.
Yeah, well, I agree with that because that is the
Okay.
actualization of the potentiality of the dog to become some other things.
Okay, go on.
So, well, anyway. Okay, so
Finish the argument.
that is prime matter. Yeah, that's the prime matter and substantial form, which are both potentiality. So, if there will be really existing dog, and any other material things which are composed of potentialities like prime matter and substantial form, it should be actualized by something else, another actual thing. So we're getting abstract here, but let's remember, I didn't started from a thin air. I started with water, wood, or a dog, something
We
like that.
remember. Go on.
So
Mm-hmm.
okay. So if this is a potentiality, it requires some other actual thing to actualize is existed here and now continuously. So this is the argument. Either that actual thing is a purely actual actualizer, or it's another actual thing that is composed of both potentiality and actuality, which is again actualized by another actual thing, which again will be actualized by another thing, and so on ad infinitum, or that's the infinite regress. So that's the two choices. Either there is infinite regress, or there's purely actual actualizer, the one that doesn't have any potentiality. Okay, so
No.
I will
No. Either there is an actualized actualizer or there is not. Either there is an infinite regress or there is not. If you're going to, I mean, I agree that those might be the only two possibilities. But my point is that if you're going to set up a dichotomy, they better damn well be a direct, not logical negation, or else I'm going to disagree. Because there may be some other option we're not
either
aware
there
of.
is
But my question with regard to whether there's an infinite regress or not, how do we determine which of those it is?
Okay, so here is it. Infinite regress is impossible. So
How? Why?
How and why? Please take note that this is an example of a hierarchical series, or essentially ordered causal series. It's not accidentally ordered causal series. Let me give two examples. You are the son of your father, and your father is the son of your grandfather. But you can make a son of your own without your grandfather. That's an example of accidentally ordered causal series. But how about the essentially ordered causal series? And a basic example of that is a stone being moved by a stick, and the stick being moved by a hand.
How is this demonstrating an infinite regress is impossible? Because that's a bald assertion you're making.
Yeah.
I'm not yet done. So the second case,
hang on, you're giving me examples, and I don't care about examples. I care about evidence that would demonstrate that it's impossible. Because you said it's impossible. I would agree that it might be improbable, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. How do you get to that?
Yeah, it's impossible because if we agree beforehand that anything that is in potentiality must be actualized by another actual thing, then if everything is made up of potentiality, nothing will really exist. There should be a first member,
why would nothing
purely
exist?
actual. Because
why would nothing exist?
How can you have actual existence without the potential to existence be
well,
actualized?
That's an argument for personal incredulity fallacy. That you're basically saying, how can this be? I can think of no way that it can be, so I'm going to reject it. That's a fallacy.
It's not like that. It's not
it's
based
exactly
from
like
my
that.
thoughts. It's based from the earlier premise that
no, it's not.
Every potential.
It's not based on the earlier premise, because
the earlier premise.
The earlier premise, yes, the earlier premise didn't get you to that. You said specifically, how can this be? That's a great question, but then how can this be? Therefore, this is impossible. Is an assertion of it's a positive claim to knowledge, and it's a personal incredulity fallacy.
You're not quoting the premises I'm talking about. I'm talking about the principle of causality. Yeah, that every potential can only be actualized by another actual thing.
Can we back up?
Yeah, that's
because you said.
Anyways,
hey, you said that if there was an infinite regress, there would be nothing. I'm not sure how you got there, because you said, how else can it be? Which is an argument from ignorance or argument from personal incredulity.
Okay, let me rephrase it. So, if everything is composed of potentiality and actuality, then nothing will exist, because this thing has a potential to exist, is actualized by another thing, which is also which also a composite of actuality and potentiality, and so it needs another cause to continue existing, and so on and so forth. And that's why let me continue the example. It's like the stone moving by a stick with a hand. Even if we have infinite number of sticks, the stone will not move by those infinite number of sticks.
Uh,
Why? Because in that case, the first mover is the hand.
Hang on, Arvin.
Remove the
no.
okay.
Arvin,
A stone
I'm
can
gonna let
move
John
without a
answer.
stick. Yeah, a stone can move without a stick,
Well,
and a stick can move without a hand.
I think I get where he's coming from though, because
Yeah.
he's saying that there must be something that caused it to move. I think
Yeah.
that's just the general, but I agree with you that a stone can definitely move without a stick. It could just move based on gravitational forces.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's not a really good example. It's kind of like the Fibonacci pattern. It will happen regardless of, because that's the pattern of the
Yeah.
life form's existence, how it's born into it. What are you gonna call the Fibonacci? You're gonna say that's the creator. It's the pattern. It's the flow. Like when you said earlier, when you have wood and then you burn it, okay, that needs something to light it up. That needs um, what you call this, basically a flame. How does the flame come into to play? And then before it turns into charcoal, which will later become something else, it's I don't know. I don't see that there has to be something to make it happen. Forest fires happen without anyone lighting a fire in the forest. There's so many ways things can happen, and to simplify it in a way na there has to be something to poke or to move, or it happens. As we
And
agreed earlier, change is constant,
yeah,
and how that change manifests itself is the possibilities are limitless. So to be able to say that, oh, it's this one thing that starts it off, like fire starts, a spark will start the fire. That's not necessarily true.
yeah, and I want to clarify because I agree with John for the most part. I think the part where John is kind of missing a little bit, and I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I think he's missing the fact that there's going to be an infinite regress of causes. So let's say hypothetically, I agreed that there cannot be an infinite regress, that is impossible. What caused it then? What started it all?
Okay.
And how do you know?
What started? Well, that's not my argument.
There must
So
be some first
it
cause.
must.
That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
There must be some
Okay,
first
so
purely
okay,
the
actualized
the
first cause.
actualizer.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, because yeah, okay.
the holder of
So
the stick.
can I continue now? Something like that. So do you agree that there's no infinite regress? There should be a purely
I'm
actualizer.
agreeing for the sake of
Some
argument. I don't think you've demonstrated that, but I'm happy to move on for the sake of argument.
okay. So let's call it the purely actualizer. Uh, it doesn't have any potentiality because it's purely actual, and therefore it doesn't need any cause because you can only make an effect to something that has a potential. Okay, like the prime matter or the substantial form, etc.
Yes,
So,
what
but
is it?
now the next step of the proof is the purely actualizer many? So the short answer for that is no, because to be many, you should have some potentiality like prime matter. We know that dogs are many even though they are similar dogs because they have different flesh and bones. Those are the prime matter, and prime matter is potentiality. But the purely actualizer doesn't have a potentiality. Therefore, the purely actualizer must be necessarily one. So what else can you say? The purely actualizer must be eternal or immutable, changeless, because time is the rate of change. And purely actualizer doesn't have any potentiality. It cannot change. So it's
If it
timeless.
cannot change, how can it do anything?
It's immutable.
Hmm.
If it doesn't change again,
If it
pardon,
can't
I
change,
failed.
if it can't change, how can it do anything? You need to be able
Well,
to change to do
Yeah.
stuff. I need to be able to move my arm to pick up my cup and drink water.
oh,
How does a
I
purely
I know
actualizer do
the
anything if it can't change?
I know the answer to that. Changing something doesn't require you to change. It's just
Yes, it
accidental to
does.
human
Yes,
beings.
it
In order
does.
for me to change
It
something else, I need to change. If I'm
well, the
static,
definition
I'm
of
not able to act on anything.
it. Well, the definition of causing an effect is just actualizing a potentiality. There's
I feel
nothing
like you just
said
ignore what I
about
just
the
said to move on.
cause.
Yeah.
You just ignore what I said to move on. So let me go back.
I
How?
can face
No,
it, but
no.
okay,
Hang
sure,
on.
go on, go on.
I'm gonna say it again, and you can
Mm-hmm.
reply.
Okay.
How can something that cannot change cause something else to change?
Well, if it is a purely actualizer,
That
it
doesn't
will
answer the
not
question
change.
either.
The change will only happen to the effect. It's like the Cambridge. I forgot the term. For example, Socrates became shorter, but it's not because Socrates really became shorter than Plato. It's that Plato become uh, taller than Socrates. So that's an example of Cambridge change.
Yeah,
So
you're not answering my
that's what we
question.
can apply.
You're
That's what
just
we can apply to God.
no, you can't, because if God can't
No.
do anything, then he can't cause anything. If God is
He's
changeless. Change is necessary to cause other things. For example, I will just go back to your rock. Let's say the only way that rock is going to be able to fall down that hill, absent gravity, is a stick. If I'm unable to poke it with a stick because I can't change, because me poking it with a stick requires change, then that rock can't go anywhere.
but you moving it.
You've locked
Ha,
yourself in a hole here.
Yeah.
well, the hand is moved by the will, right? And the will is moved by knowledge, and knowledge is it's so and so forth. That's
Right?
why we can only end
Okay.
with the purely actualizer. The
But
example is
you're
just a
not
small
answering my
example of
question.
simple.
Yeah. You're avoiding all the questions.
You
What's the
said,
question?
really? What's the question? So, for the third or fourth time now, you
Yeah.
said it's
I'm sorry.
changeless. You said it cannot change.
Yes, yes,
How
yes.
can something that cannot change do anything?
And this is weird because we agreed earlier that there's one constant in the universe, and that is change. You
Yep.
agreed that change happens. That's why I'm confused.
Well, there's a difference between saying that change happens and everything changes. Well, I didn't claim that everything changes. Actually, prime matter by
Uh,
itself doesn't change. It changes when it is merged to a substantial form. That's why the remain of the dog is the same remain that became the minerals that will become the plants,
If you're
etc.
not going to answer the question, I'm just going to move on. Because
Okay,
this is
so
just a waste of
thanks.
time. Because the question is
Okay,
very
okay.
simple. If you're not going to answer it, we can move on. But the question is, if something is changeless, unable to change, how can it do anything? Anything at all,
how
including
can it
cause other
influence any
things?
change?
Yes.
Hmm.
Change
If
requires the
someone is
ability for
already
something else to
perfect,
change.
if someone is already perfect, nothing can be added
There we
on.
go.
Then,
There we go.
yeah.
I got an
But
answer.
So
anyways,
that's
we're
It's
talking.
not a good
that's the
answer, but it's
claim.
an
That's
answer.
that's the claim that something is perfect. That's a claim
Well,
that something
well,
perfect exists.
we purely actual is also perfectly
Uh,
good because to be
Perfectly good.
imperfect is to have some is to have some unactualized potentiality. For example, a man has the potential to be reasonable, but if he chooses not to be reasonable, he's not a good man. So
Oh, now
if but
that's also a matter of perspective. What might not be reasonable to you might be reasonable to him or to others. It's just
but
in
do
your
you
case,
do
you
you
might not think it's reasonable. Some people think it's reasonable to kill. Most people don't. Some people think it's reasonable to be eating vegetables more than meat. Some people don't.
I also don't see how that's a demonstration of perfection, because that's two separate things. We're talking about morality versus just in general perfection. I don't even know what perfection would be. It's not clearly defined. But
Yes.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you're correct. Because
ah, okay.
perfection is related to nature. For example, a perfect eye is the eye that see. Because the nature or perfection of eye is to see. So you must know the nature of
No,
things.
that's a
Okay, but
purpose. That's the purpose of the eye. If it's able to see, it does not mean it's perfect because some people see in 20/20 vision, some
Yeah.
don't.
And what if
Some
yeah,
somebody
animals
has
have different.
some people have
You can't
10/20
say it's.
vision? I do with my
Hmm,
glasses on.
yeah,
What is
it's
perfect
but
vision? Would perfect vision include the ability
okay.
to see the entire radio spectrum from radio waves
Yeah,
to
yeah.
ultraviolet? Oh, it
Yeah,
would.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in degrees, but you can see that it's better to have an eye that can see instead of an eye that can see because
In other
we believe that
words,
the
in other
the
words, I don't
nature
need
of the
it.
eye is to see.
In other words, I don't need a perfect eye to be able to see. I just need an eye that works at all.
But how can we know that something is
Wow.
more or less perfect when there's something is not perfect? Anyways, we're going away with the argument.
because
So I'll
when you
continue.
brought up perfection, that's why if something is perfect that doesn't need to change, that is able to move things
I mean,
without changing itself.
John and I are literally both wearing glasses, demonstrating that we don't need perfect eyes to see.
Your eyes is still good because you can still see. Compare with the
I
ones
can,
who don't see
but
anymore.
it's not a You said it would need a perfect eye. We don't need a perfect eye to see.
But if
I don't
we
even know what a perfect eye would be.
If we abstracted the idea of seeing, that's perfection already.
How is that perfection?
In
Because
concrete terms, it's
I can
just
think of a better eye than mine. Squids have better eyes than humans do, for the most part. They just can see better. It's just an objective fact. And I don't see how this is getting you near a perfect eye, and I don't see why you need a perfect eye to see.
well, the simple explanation for this is that we need to distinguish between the idea or the form and the matter, which is composed of prime matter and substantial form, which limits the substantial form. That's why an eye can be more or less good, but it's still
So it's not
intelligible
perfect.
and understandable.
So
Are
it's
you
not
defining?
perfect.
A good
So
a
it's
good
not
eye.
Sorry.
perfect. A good
Are you
eye
defining-
is not perfect.
Yes.
A good eye is an eye that see because that's the nature of eye. So let's go back to the purely actual
So hang on.
actualizer.
Oh,
So,
hang on.
mhm.
I just want to clarify. Are you defining perfect as the ability to see at all?
Well, no, because perfection, you must relate it to something what you're talking about. Perfect in what?
Exactly,
Right?
because
Vision?
you can have a blind person. Okay, take this example. You can have a blind person, but the structure of the eye, the iris, and everything. When you take a photo of that person's eye, it can actually be symmetrical and perfect, and then you can call it a perfect eye. But the purpose, its usefulness, is thrown out the window. It's an objective thought. Aesthetically, in a photo, in an image, it's beautiful. It's almost perfect, but for practical use, it's useless. It's not perfect.
Yes, because the latter case where you are talking about just the appearance of the eye is just the partial aspect of reality of the eye. But the whole reality of eye includes its nature, its function. Anyways, so an
Okay.
eye can
Sorry, I'm not
get
laughing at you.
body,
I'm just
right?
confused. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay, it's
I'm
okay.
still trying to see
So,
where we're going
Yeah.
at with this, because
listen.
we were talking
So
about
I've
change.
just shown
We've been at this for like
I've just
30
shown
minutes
that
now.
purely actualizer doesn't change, eternal. It's also immaterial or incorporeal because to have some body is to have some potential because a body can be a body of some kind of body or some other else. So, but purely actualizer doesn't have a potentiality. So, it's incorporeal. It's perfectly good too because it doesn't have potential that can fail to be actualized.
How are
So
you
it's
defining good?
perfectly good. It's purely actual.
How are you defining
Good
good?
is
I know
Yeah.
okay. Let me define good. Good
Go for
is
it.
something is perfection. It's something that everything desires.
No,
So everything
because
tends to perfection.
perfection is, as we were talking about, in the eye of the beholder. What's perfection for you is not going to be perfection for me. It's not going to
Yeah.
be perfection for Ben. It's not going to be perfection for our audience.
I don't even think perfection is possible.
Yeah,
I think it's just an abstract concept, just like infinity is an abstract
But
concept.
it's
Sorry.
it's
abs-
it's ro- it's romanticizing the idea of something ideal. It's romanticizing something, as we say, perfect, something that
Sure.
fits is the right thing.
hello. Okay. So I understand your point, but let me give some more example. For example, the
Well,
triangularity.
You don't need to do that. You can
Okay.
go on to the rest of the
Yeah,
argument because I just wanted to clarify that you weren't saying good in the sense of moral good because that's not demonstrated by the
Well,
previous premises.
I can talk briefly between moral and physical good.
No, you
So
really
an
can't.
example of physical good.
Because you can't because
Okay,
the
so
previous premises don't get you there. You can't
okay,
get
so
to a morally good being.
besides Well, I'm not going to that.
Okay,
I'm
then
just
continue. That's what I was
trying
asking.
to answer. Yeah, I'm just trying to answer your question. What is good? So, well,
Fantastic.
we'll ignore that so I can continue.
Yes, that was all I wanted to
Um,
know. Go on.
so, so we can see that whatever actualizes other potential is a kind of power, just like a fire makes a wood burning. So, but
Okay, you
purely
have 1 minute to
actual.
finish the argument, please.
Okay, 1 minute. So it's omnipotent, the purely actual. It's also omniscient and has knowledge, so we can call it he, because the
Yeah.
effects must
Yeah,
somehow
no, I'm
exist
sorry. I don't
in
know
the
how you're getting
cause.
to any of that because none of that follows from the previous premises. You don't need all knowledge to be
Well,
able to be the first cause of something.
can
No, no,
can I
I
request
don't,
you to let
I
me?
don't. No, I can't.
Uh, yeah,
I
because
can
we've
hang
been
up
going
on
in
you.
Okay,
circles.
if
I'm
you
going
don't
to.
want,
No,
because
can I
instead
respond?
of letting me
Yeah.
Can I
finish
give you my
the whole
reason?
argument.
Stop. Listen. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need to know everything about the rock in order to push it off the hill. I don't need to have all knowledge to do something. So this idea that there needs to be a being with all knowledge is not followed from your premises.
But I'm not yet done in proving
I
that
don't care
the
if you're
purely
done.
actualizer.
Here,
You
here.
just asserted it
Ar-
has to be all knowing. Go ahead, John.
But how can you check my argument if you're not letting me finish?
Because you asserted
Arvin.
it must be all knowing and then moved on. You didn't
Yeah.
demonstrate.
But I'm giving the reason.
Yes, Arvin.
It's
I'm
yeah.
gonna explain it to you in a way na kahit magtagalog tayo. We gave you the opportunity
Okay.
to explain, di ba? Nabigyan
Uh-huh.
ka ng oras para mag-explain. Yun nangyari, naging liboy-liboy na tayo. We've gone to so many parts when we were asking, di ba, specific questions, and we've gone around. We've agreed to some point. We've disagreed in a bunch of points, and both Ben and I are still waiting for we
Well,
change.
that's almost done, though. When I say that's
All
omniscient,
right,
then
Yes,
I will say
finish.
that.
Finish.
and
I'm not
and
scared,
Arvin. Go
Bridgekeeper.
ahead.
Continue.
The 1 minute has been given.
Anyways, the conclusion is that if the purely actualizer is one,
Wait.
immaterial, eternal, omnipotent, omniscient, perfectly
No.
good, and that
No.
sounds God, and
No.
purely actual
No.
actualizer exists,
No.
so God
No.
exists. So
No.
I'm done
No.
with
No.
the
No. No.
argument.
No. I asked you how you know it's omniscient, and you said I'm trying to explain that, and then you said if it's omniscient. How did you
Will you
demonstrate it's
hear me
omniscient?
now? Will you not cut me again, just like you
Well, you didn't
doing
answer my
earlier,
question.
habitually?
Stop. Stop. Listen, please. I'm trying to be patient with you. I promise. I am telling you that I asked you how you know it's omniscient, and then I said that you don't need to be omniscient to do something. I don't need to know everything about the rock to be able to push it off the hill. I don't need to know everything about the
But that's
stick to
not my
push it towards the
reason.
rock. Let me finish, please. So, I don't need to know everything about the rock to cause the rock to move. I don't need to know everything about gravity to understand how to drop a ball. Okay? So the point is,
I agree with
when
those
I asked, okay?
because you're not. Mm.
So when I asked you how you get to this must be omniscient, you concluded the argument with it must be omnipotent and omniscient, and then we call this God. You didn't demonstrate how you know it must be omniscient. You just asserted it and moved on, and then you expect me to listen to
Well,
you further.
you say I'm done with the 1 minute, so I've taken the shortcut.
Okay. How is it omniscient, and how do you know?
Okay, so the reasoning is this: the effect must somehow exist in the cause, right? So,
No.
for example, so the effect can be
Why is
greater
it
than the
stop? You're not
cause.
answering my question. Why is it necessary to know everything about what you're causing in order to cause it? I don't see how you get there.
Well,
Maybe you can
it's
answer
not
ask
part
that
of
in
my
Tagalog.
reasoning to answer that question. It's not part of the argument how to prove that the purely actual actualizer is omniscient.
Then it's just a
Nothing is
bald
said that
assertion and it has
everything
nothing
must
to
be
do
all
with your
knowing
argument.
to. But please hear me. Please let me finish.
No,
When
because
you
you
Arvin,
when you are
yeah.
requesting to
okay.
let you finish, I'm listening to you, but you are continuously
I think I've been more
cutting
than
me.
fair to you.
So how can
Arvin, just to let you know, kapatid, we've been very, very fair and letting you speak. In fact, our viewers can confirm this in the comments. We have been very open to your words. In fact, we haven't been cutting you off.
I'm
Let
cutting you
that
off
be
now
clear.
because
Huh?
I'm frustrated by the
Let
fact that
it.
you're
I
making
want it.
assertions.
Yeah, and I'm a guest here. I don't want to be the asshole also, or be told that
Yeah, that's
on
my
the
job.
episode I'm at, we're cutting everyone off. That's not true, Arvin. So you please don't make
Well,
that assertion. Please let me finish. We let you finish at times.
yes.
Let me finish. I have been observing. In fact, I'm the guest. Remember, like you are a guest also. So we pay each other respect. So yung napansin ko lang, kapatid, binibigyan ka ng oras magsalita at mag-explain at nagiging mahaba. In fact, masyadong mahaba na wala na tayo na napupuntang punto. That's why I understand Ben's frustrations. But please understand our frustration also, because this is supposed to be an entertaining and fruitful exchange of ideas. So once again, Arvin, please explain to us and
Yeah.
end your argument in
And
a
I have
paragraph.
no idea what John just said, but I think it sounded great. So I just want to clarify, because I don't speak Tagalog, but I just want to clarify again that what happened is I said, how do you know it's omniscient? And you said, okay, it's omniscient. That's not a demonstration that it needs to know everything about the thing it's causing. And I don't see how you got there. And so if you're just going to assert it and expect me to just listen to you assert it again, I don't see that we're going to get anywhere. You have the floor, Arvin.
Hello. So
I don't even know if he was listening, but
Yeah.
nope, he got kicked
Yeah,
out.
cut off.
the
Well,
There again.
there he is.
Arvin's back.
to-
All right.
purely actualizer is omniscient.
How do you know it's
It's
omniscient?
some kind of
Why does it need to be
it's
omniscient?
some kind of argument, because in some way or another, if the purely actualizer is the cause of everything, because every other material substances have potentiality, then somehow the effects must exist in the cause. So
What does that have to
how
do
can
with
we
all? Oh God, what does this have to do with omniscience? You said it's omniscient.
Well, I, I'm not yet done. Can you let me finish with
No,
this
I
one?
can't let you finish because
Arvin.
you're not answering the question.
Well, I cannot summarize it in one liner, but I can prove it to you
Okay.
that the purely actualizer is omniscient. Just let me finish, okay? Please be patient.
Okay.
More patient. I know that you're patient. Okay, so we know that in cause and effect, the effect must somehow exist in the cause in some way or another. So in technical term, it can be divided into formally causing it, or virtually causing it, or eminently causing it. If I give you a 20 peso bill, I've just caused it formally because the 20 pesos exists in me, and then I give you 20 pesos. So you
Do I
now
need to
have
know
the 20
everything about the
pesos.
20 peso bill to give it to you?
Yeah, because
Do I need to know?
must show
Stop.
it how.
Do I need to know what the 20 peso bill is made of to give it to you? Do I need to know everything about it? That's what you're claiming.
No,
I
I'm
need to know
not.
everything about it.
No, no, I'm classifying how a cause can produce an effect, either formally,
I already understand how a cause
virtually,
can
or
produce an effect.
eminently.
Get to the omniscience.
So the next one is virtually. For example, I don't have here the 20 pesos, but I can withdraw it from ATM. So I have it virtually. And I have it eminently if I have a friend in the, for example, printing press or of money. I have the authority that a law has been passed that I can say that produce 20 pesos, and I do have that eminently. So how does the purely actualizer, how does the effect exist in purely actualizer?
It's a matter of how the value is manifested, Arvin. I have 7 tomatoes in my tomato tree right now in my garden. If you sell it, I can sell it to you I can give it to you. How much is that? It's 20 pesos, diba?
Mm-hmm.
So you're just changing the name of it, the value.
And just to be clear, I don't need to know there are 7 tomatoes in the tree for there to still be 7 tomatoes in the tree. So omniscience is not required for action or causality or whatever fuzzy language you want to use.
Well, those are the other example that John said are all true, but can I continue how to relate that to
I
omniscience?
really want you to get to the omniscience because we already understand causality. We've gotten past that. I really want you to get to why
Okay, so
why it necessitates
now
omniscience.
we've just said earlier that every material things are composed of prime matter and substantial form, but matter can't exist in purely actualizer because it's pure potentiality.
It's like
But
he
the
can't hear me.
substantial form is somehow hello.
It's like you
I
can't
can't
hear
hear
my
you. You
question.
say
It seems like
Arvin,
it.
kasi
Go ahead, John.
bumalik ulit tayo sa simula. Yeah, I'm telling him we went back to square one again. Arvin, continue from where we left off. Tapos dun mo ituloy. You
yeah.
don't need to go back to what you said like 30 minutes ago. Let's
Yeah, we get
continue.
it.
Tara.
Okay. I understand. So the substantial form is somehow an actual thing because it makes, for example, just fast. The body of the dog is an actual dog, not of the cat, because its substantial form is dogness. So it's an idea, it's an abstract thing. We can say that all substantial form exists in the mind of the purely actual actualizer. And to know more is to change. But as I argue, but you disagree, the purely actual actualizer cannot change. It has every knowledge. And so it's omniscient.
No.
So that's what.
So that's the claim. That's the
That
claim
is
you've
the
made
claim.
Yeah,
That
in
that's
isn't
your
an
the
argument.
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 It's not the argument. It's your claim that it's the unmoved mover.
Well,
It's the beginning. It's
And
the
it knows
perfect.
everything. That is just a bald assertion.
Yeah,
But it knows that
that's
it
the
needs to
assertion.
know everything. I don't see
I
how
think
it needs to know everything. And where did that knowledge even come from?
well,
We don't even know.
I
But
think we established that about 15 minutes ago. I think
yeah.
we get what you're saying, Arvin. We get it. Don't think that we don't get it. We get it. But
I've
how
heard
does
this argument
that
many times. I've been
yeah,
doing this for
how
years.
does that become proof?
we
How does the
must connect
statement
every premises starting from the first one
No,
that there are
sorry.
changing
Even if
things
I grant all
without
your
connecting
premises,
them.
even if I grant all of your premises, you don't get to omniscience. Sorry. You do not get to an
Well,
omniscient being.
can you, if you really do understand my argument on how the purely actualizer
You're
is omniscient,
rejecting.
can you repeat my argument?
I don't need to. Let me finish. So
it's recorded? You can check the replay.
you can have sufficient knowledge to cause something. You don't need all knowledge to cause something. I have sufficient knowledge about how to push a boulder off the hill. I don't need to know exactly everything about the boulder, every location of every atom everywhere on the boulder to be able to cause it to roll down the hill. So if we extrapolate that, you're violating Occam's razor because Occam's razor says do not multiply entities unnecessarily. You are multiplying this entity with all knowledge when all it needs is sufficient knowledge. And that could be a magical space pixie who just has the knowledge just enough to cause the universe to exist. And you don't need anything more than that. It doesn't need to know everything about the universe in order to cause it.
But that will contradict
Your argument, yes,
the
it will definitely,
principle
yes, it
the
will.
principle of proportionate causality, that the effect cannot be greater than the cause, that the effect is somehow existing in the cause. So as you can see, there
If
are
the
two
effect can't,
steps in that argument going to omniscience.
hang on. If a magical space pixie violates an effect cannot be greater than a cause, why doesn't a god who is by definition greater than a magical space pixie violate this same rule? You are now engaged in a special pleading fallacy.
I don't see the connection. Can you complete your reasoning so I can respond to it
So
properly?
the magical space pixie has just sufficient knowledge enough to create the universe. The god that you're proposing has all knowledge about the universe, which is by definition greater than the magical space pixie. And your argument was that the effect cannot be greater than the cause to argue against a magical space pixie. And you're not giving that same due process to your god. That is a special pleading fallacy.
I know now how to. I do understand you. It's because we need to connect the premise that the purely actual actualizer is changeless. So if the purely actual actualizer will just gain some more knowledge, then it's not purely actual. It has some potential to gain new knowledge. But again, the purely actual actualizer has no potentiality, so it knows everything.
Space pixie. Okay, so I don't see how this is getting us anywhere, because
Yeah.
I asked you a specific question. I asked you a specific question about how you can rule out a magical space pixie because it's greater than the cause, but you can't rule out a god who is by definition greater than the magical space pixie, I don't see how you're able to justify that. So I don't see that we're going to get anywhere with this call.
Well, the magical space pixie was just introduced from thin air, and space magical pixie has some limitation. If we can discuss its form, something like that. So
It can do everything the god can do, but it doesn't have omniscience.
But that will be a problem because it needs some cost. If it has some limitation, because we can ask where does the limitation of the magical space pixie coming from?
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else, John?
Yeah, no, I just went through the comments. Congratulations, Ben. We're very, very patient.
Oh, good. All right. Thank you,
Yeah,
Arvin, for calling. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much for your patience. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Maybe
Arvin.
Maybe we can continue this next time if you maybe try to restructure and ask yourself, how do you rule out an omniscient or non-omniscient space pixie, but rule in a god who is omniscient? They both are identical in terms of what they can or cannot do. That's my assertion. I'm asserting it that the space pixie is exactly the same as the god, except we call it a space pixie and it doesn't have omniscience. Think about that and then get back to us.
Okay.
Yeah, you can always call, man. Don't worry. Our doors are open.
Yep.
Wala namang kaming...
I just want to try to move
Wala
on.
namang...
Well, I think I'm not a good caller because I think
No, you were fine.
somehow.
I got a little bit
But
impatient, but it
thank
wasn't.
you very much for
it
your.
wasn't personal.
Yeah.
Yes. I
It's a
think I must.
discussion, diba?
I must try to explain some things briefly. So next time, I
Okay.
hope I can.
All right. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Watch
Thank
this
you very
call
much
back
for your
and
time. Stay safe.
yeah, watch the call back
Yes,
later
sir.
and try to think about it. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Arvin.
Ugh.
All right.
I feel bad
All
because
right,
I'm getting
cool.
really impatient, but I mean, I don't know what else to do in that situation where I'm trying to explain clearly that this doesn't necessarily follow, and I'm asking a very direct question. And like, I don't want to beat up on Arvin or anything, but I mean, it's really frustrating to sit here and explain over and over again. This is my question. This is my question. To keep going back to the very beginning and not answering the question.